All right, so today we're going to put in an Emporia Vue energy monitor. So I already have a sense in here, and I actually just took out the first generation Emporia Vue. This is the second generation. So I'm going to go turn off the power and unbox this and start clamping it in. But it's going to go a couple lines on the main up here, and then this one has 16 CT clamps, so I can watch 16 different circuits. So I'm going to get started on that. All right, so here's the box. And inside, this is the main monitor here. So it looks like that. And a whole bunch of stuff plugs into it. And then there are, these are 8 CT clamps each in here. So I'll start pulling those out and plugging them in. All right, so this is Emporia's brain and box, and this is the Sense energy monitor, so you can see they're pretty similar in size. And this is the second generation device. The first generation did not do voltage monitoring, so this one does. So there's A, B, and C, so this will handle 3-phase power, but this is a house, so it's just 2-phase, or 220. It's 2 legs of 110. And then it holds 16 different CTs. And this is the thing I really like about it. All of these are just headphone jacks. Why hasn't anybody done a headphone jack yet? This is absolutely brilliant, because the little tiny wires you have to plug in are a real pain in the tuchus. So this makes this a pretty quick install. I just have to decide which circuits I'm going to monitor, and then I need to write down which is which. All right, my main breaker happens to be outdoors, which is unusual for my market, certainly not unusual for a lot of the country, particularly the South. So I have a 200 amp breaker, and I'm going to shut that off. This is where it's really helpful to have some work lights. So these I just use from usually spray foam jobs, but here are the 2 accessory boxes. And so this has the 2 main clamps in it. And then also this is the wire here for powering it. And then over here, there are 8 CT clamps. So I'll get started putting those in. And so I just labeled my box. So I have a handwritten sheet that I need to put into a spreadsheet and then print out. But I need to note which circuits I am putting a CT on. So that's what I have to do next. So I will dig into that now that the power's off. All right, so this is a really nice thing that they send you. They send you this little piece of wire. And so I'm going to wire the power in to this breaker and this breaker. So it's important they need to be next to each other. So you can see down here, I just opened these slots up earlier because my heat pump will use these down the road. But you can see where those lines are coming off and they switch. So that one comes off this side, and the next one comes off the other side. So those are going to these 2 wires coming in from the house. So you have to make sure that when you power it, you hit both sides. And so that's what I'm doing with these 2 breakers. So here's one side, here's the other side. Doesn't really matter at all, just so long as you're taking 2 that are consecutive, you will get the 2 sides. So important to note. All right, so now I have those taped up, and they're going into this breaker and this breaker. And then the blue and white I have going to neutral, like the directions say. Okay, so I made a list of all the circuits. And this is an important thing to do. You have to figure out what goes where. And sometimes you're not going to know, so you're just going to have to do it. So this is just my handwritten list, and I will put this into a spreadsheet here shortly. But I also was consolidating breakers. I wanted to open up these 4 spots so that I can put my heat pump in. So I needed to make this list, and as you can see, it's messy. I kept changing things as I was going, depending on where things were going to fit, what wires there were, and so forth. So really important to have this because you need to know what's what. If you don't know what something is, you can always put a CT clamp on it and then watch for it to actually be running. My old house, I had like 8 circuits. I didn't know what they were, and I figured out 7 of them by watching an energy monitor. In that case, it was this, and then at a curb on that house as well. So important note, make a list of all of your breakers. Okay, so I have chosen which ones I'm going to clamp. So this goes to my office, and note that the L points towards the breaker over here, and that's what it needs to do. The L goes to the load. And then I have clamped the range. Important point on anything that is 220, if it shares the same neutral, so if there's only one wire, the neutral bus is back here. This is actually the way they have it wired. It's ground here, neutral on the other side. But if it is a 220 device that pulls the same, which pretty much all these double breakers are going to do with the exception of a sub panel, you can just clamp one, and then in the app you can tell it to double that usage. So I had them clamped separately in the last install, and they're really close to each other. So they're close enough you can just double them, and even if it's off by a couple percent, it's not that big of a deal. So I clamped the range, and then down here, this is my water pump. And so this is a sub panel here. I have 60 amp going to the shed, and I used to charge my car off of this. And once I get an electric car again, I will be using that. Stunk to get rid of the volt, but needed a van for towing our camper. And then clamp the dryer, and in this case, this runs the washer and the dryer off of the same line. So this will be the laundry. And this is the refrigerator, because why not? And I also want to see, the Sense can see the refrigerator, so I want to see if it's catching all of the cycles or not. This is the water heater, and I think that is it for the moment. Yeah, that's the 8. So I have those all set up, and note that all of them have the L going to the breaker. So next up is wire management. I have to go find my zip ties. I don't know that I know where they are right now. I had the last setup zip tied pretty well, and it was reasonably neat. But know that this is going to be a train wreck pretty much no matter what you do with it in your electric panel. So just do your best and don't judge each other too harshly if it looks a little messy. Okay, then this is still far from neat, but got my main clamps up there. There's 8 CTs here. And I would recommend getting the 16 CT model. Just didn't happen to get this. And I have this jammed in here enough that I can get the panel back on. But you want to make sure you don't have too many wires. Like this one's going to be too close, because when you put the cover back on it, you're going to struggle to get that on. So I'm going to go turn it on, turn the power on, and get the thing set up. All right, and I'm done. It is hooked up to the Wi-Fi, reporting. So here's the old Emporia one, so I'm just going to pull that off because I switched what I'm monitoring. And I purposely opened up these holes earlier, again, so that I can put a heat pump in and have some space for it. And then it's funny, I had to use blue tape. My daughter used all of the tape in the entire house. So any of the clear stuff, so blue it is. But I went and made that spreadsheet, like I said, with all of my notes. So now I know which ones are being monitored, and I also know where the power is because I didn't know that before. So install's complete, and now because it's generation 2, it has voltage monitoring, so I can trust the numbers on it yet. So I'm excited to watch this. All right, before we sign off, I wanted to show you the app now that this is working. So you can see the different circuits that it is monitoring. So you can check the main, what the total wattage is. And this will drive some people a little bit nuts, but so there's minute. If I move to the hour, it shows what the usage is. So that's kilowatt hours, where the second and minute ones show you the actual usage in watts or kilowatts. So you can see the different things that I'm monitoring, watching in my office, which is basically the internet. Then there's the 2 barn circuits. And this is important because it's a sub panel, so they are separate circuits. But you can click on any one and see what's going on. The refrigerator, I really wanted to check this so that I can compare it against the Sense. So we'll see just how well it does at picking things up. And you can see it runs a fair amount. I happen to have an old fridge. It was our basement fridge in our old house, and when we moved, we had to leave the good fridge, and we brought this one. So it's not the most efficient one. It could be worse, but it could be better. But it's kind of interesting. You can see there was a long cycle right here because I had the power off for about an hour while I was putting the monitor in and shooting the videos. So pretty cool that you can see all this stuff, and now I get to see some things that I didn't before. I'm glad to have updated this. So I didn't have the water pump before, and I didn't have the refrigerator before. So by only putting 1 clamp on some of these 220s, I opened up a couple extra that I could watch. So I'm really curious to watch this, and thanks again to Emporia for sending the product to me, but I also really like the product, so that's important. I don't like to put positive reviews up for something that I don't like. So hope this little quick review of the app is helpful. All right, so it's in. And there you go, you can see the empty slot. So I'm going to put an affiliate link at the bottom. And so if this is something that interests you, this is a really nice tool for figuring out what's going on. If you've got something in your house that you just don't know what's going on, this is a really good tool to get and try and figure that out. And also, if you are electrifying, this is a really good tool to understand just how much energy you're using, because a lot of your friends and family are going to be nervous about pulling a furnace and putting a heat pump in its place, as is your contractor and probably yourself. So this is a good way to understand what's going on and make yourself feel better. So I'm Nate the House Whisperer. Take a look for the affiliate link at the bottom because you can get a couple bucks off, and then I get a couple of bucks as well. But take a look at that. And if this is something that sounds interesting, go get one, or even hire an electrician to put it in. And I hope this was a helpful video. So again, I'm Nate the House Whisperer. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.